Hi, everyone. Welcome to the LOFT Fellowship information session. My name is Anna Silverman, and I am a recruiter with the LOFT team. And without further ado, I will hand things over to LOFT's Executive Director, Theo LeCompte, so we can get started.
Great. Thank you so much, Anna. It's great to see everybody here today. Really excited that you're here with us to learn more about the LOFT Fellowship. So really quick introduction. So my name is Theo. I'm the Executive Director of the LOFT Fellowship. I just started with LOFT last month. Excited to be here and running this exciting program, which we're going to talk about today. A little bit about me. I spent most of the first 15 years of my career in government and politics. I worked on a number of Democratic National Conventions, including the most recent one here in Chicago. And I also worked at the Commerce Department in the Obama administration. Over the last 6 years or so, I've spent a number of time in business strategy roles. I worked at Uber, worked at a company called Veho, and just joined the LOFT Fellowship as the executive director last month. So really excited to be here and talking with all of you today about LOFT. So we're going to talk through a couple of things, but our agenda for today, first, what is the LOFT Fellowship? We're going to talk about sort of the different components and what you can expect. What's in the LOFT curriculum? We've gotten a lot of questions from folks about what's in the actual curriculum that we're building, who is the LOFT Fellowship meant for, and how you can apply. And then at the end, we will have some time for questions. So you should see at the bottom of your webinar screen, there is a question and answer functionality. So go ahead and click that and type any questions that you might have, and we will be sure to answer as many as we can get to along the way. So first, what is the LOFT Fellowship? So really simply, the LOFT Fellowship is a one-year full-time paid fellowship to give campaign and public service leaders the core elements of a top-notch graduate business education. We've partnered with the McDonough School at Georgetown and the Ross School at the University of Michigan to deliver the key elements of an executive MBA for campaign and public service leaders so that they can go on to be stronger leaders and better managers throughout the rest of their career. A couple of key elements that I want to highlight for you about LOFT. First of all, this is a full-time paid program that includes a $9,000 a month salary plus benefits. So we've gotten a lot of questions about whether folks can keep their jobs or have other obligations. The general answer there is no. This is a full-time program, and it's going to be something close to full-time obligations. It is in person in Washington, D.C. Most of the programming is either at the Georgetown University School of Continuing Studies building or at the LOFT offices, which are just a few blocks down the street near the Judiciary Square metro stop. It does include some paid time off on an academic style calendar, but there's not flexible paid time off. So it's an academic program that benefits from everybody being in the room at the same time, focused on what we're focused on learning, but it's a little bit more what you might be used to in a graduate or an undergraduate academic style program. And it is a 12-month program. We will be starting in mid-January with orientation around January 15th, and it goes through the end of the year. There are 5 elements of the LOFT experience that I want to talk about today. There's the integrated LOFT learning journey, which is all of what we're doing with our university partners. In addition, there is the LOFT 360 tool, which is a 360 self-evaluation tool, and executive and career coaching element. We will be doing a lot of network building. Network is really critical to anyone's success in a career in campaigns or public service. So we will have both a lot of networking events, as well as some sessions focused on how to build and maintain a high quality professional network. There is also during the summer, there is a private sector internship where folks will be placed with private sector companies in the DC area, focused on a particular project or task within a business. That is not part of a government relations team. We'll be putting folks in marketing teams and operations teams and finance teams, really trying to get a sense of how businesses think and make decisions on a day-to-day basis. And then the whole thing finishes up with a Capitol Hill Public Sector Fellowship at the end of the year, where folks will be placed in individual offices on Capitol Hill as a part of the conclusion of their fellowship. So more specifically, as we think about those partnerships with Michigan and with Georgetown, what is in the LOFT curriculum? Get this question a lot. So we start in January with 2 weeks in Ann Arbor at the University of Michigan, focused on leadership and the self. How do you as a leader show up? This includes some sessions on leading with purpose, influence and persuasion, and leading inclusive teams. How are you as a leader showing up every day, and how can that make you more effective as a manager and a leader of the teams and programs that you work on? Then we're going to come back to Georgetown, where we have a lot of classes focused on what you might call the core of an executive MBA: strategy, decision making, digital media fundamentals, all of these different things that any kind of MBA or executive MBA student might focus on. I'll talk in a little bit about the structure of that learning and how we take the classroom learning and really apply it to campaigns and public service. But these are the topics that we'll be addressing over the course of the program. Each phase focuses on a different type of leadership. So we talked a little bit about phase 1 at Michigan. Phase 2 is at Georgetown and really about those core executive MBA times. The summer, as I said, will be focused on private sector internship. We'll come back to Georgetown in the early fall for leading externally in crisis. This is really where we kind of bring it all together. Everything that we've taken from Michigan, from the spring in Georgetown, and from your experience in a private sector company, bringing it all together into one kind of leadership seminar and how we apply these principles in practice. And then you'll be placed to conclude the year in a policy fellowship here in the DC area. When you look and think about what a typical week at LOFT will look like, it's helpful to think about it like a 9-to-5 job. It will be Monday to Friday. We will have things every day. That will ebb and flow a little bit. We do have some flexibility for things like doctor's appointments and other life logistics that people will need to do. But in general, we'll be in the classroom focused from Monday to Friday each week. We'll kick off each week with just a reset and a agenda setting on where we are. In the afternoon, we'll be over at Georgetown talking with a professor, hearing about a particular topic. On Tuesdays, we will be developing what we're calling application sessions, which is taking those classroom learnings that we will have gotten from the professor the previous day and spending the day with a practitioner in campaigns and public service to talk more specifically about how we can apply those principles where we are. So for instance, this slide shows us in a week when we're going to be talking about consumer behavior and market research, we might have a pollster or some other political researcher come in and talk to us about how we think about the latest and greatest cutting edge private sector techniques, how we apply them in a campaign or in a public policy setting. Wednesdays, we're back in class. Thursdays, some more application sessions. And then Fridays are a little bit more flexible and will change throughout the program, but we would have guest speakers, networking events, and making sure that folks are taking the time to connect with their career and executive coaches. So who is the LOFT Fellowship meant for? I get a lot of questions about this. So I want to be really specific about what we see as the ideal candidate for LOFT. And ideally, it's someone who has between 3 and 8 years of experience on campaigns or in public service. So, someone, and that includes at least some people management experience. So if you're a campaign manager for the first time in 2024 as your first congressional manager, or you're an LA in an office on Capitol Hill, or a deputy campaign manager on a statewide or running a state in a presidential campaign, those are the kinds of levels that we might think as the ideal candidate for LOFT. We have seen some great candidates that don't exactly fit this profile. So if you think that you are at a moment in your career where your arc matches up with someone who might be in a situation like this, apply. Tell us about it, but use the opportunity of the written questions on the application to tell your story about how you might be able to contribute to LOFT and how you think that LOFT is the right fit for you at this point in your career. So that gets us to the next question: how to apply. So it's really easy. You can go on our website right now loftleaders.org/apply and dive right on into the application. There's also a number of pages with additional information about the program and about how we'll be thinking about what is part of the content. But there are 3 steps to the application process. First is a written application with 5 questions. We really encourage you to be thoughtful about these questions. We read each and every answer carefully, and it is what is used to decide who moves on to the next step. So please put some thought into this. Think hard about what you're looking to get out of Loft, and spend some time responding to the questions. The next step for those that we decide are at the level we're looking for is a phone screen with Anna, who you met at the beginning of this call. Anna will talk a little bit more in depth about the logistics of the program and also give you a chance to talk more about your own experience and what that looks like. And for our best candidates, the final step is a panel interview with 3 members of our selection committee. It's about a 45-minute interview where we talk much more in depth about your experience and how you think about the tools that you have gained in your career so far and how that would connect with the Loft experience. So that's the application. That's really what we're looking for today. So with that, I am going to jump in and talk and take some of the questions that have been in the that are in the Q&A function. Again, at the bottom of your screen, there is a question and answer function. Feel free to type any questions in there, and we will get to as many as we possibly can throughout the program here. All right, I am going to stop sharing my screen just so you can see my face a little bit bigger and dive right in to the questions. All right, so first is CC asked, what is the timeline for the application process? Great question, and probably a miss that I didn't include it on that last slide. So we have a our second round so we had an early action deadline that was a couple of weeks ago. Our second round deadline is October 20th, and our final deadline is November 15th. So if you apply by October 20th, we will give you an answer one way or the other within 3 weeks of that date. So we encourage people to apply as early as possible. And we are moving people through the pipeline on a rolling basis. But our second round deadline is October 20th. And we do commit that we will get back to you with one way or the other within 3 weeks of that deadline. The same is true for the November 15th deadline. We'll let folks know by early December whether what their status is with the program. Next question is, what companies are a possibility for the summer internship? We're still working on our partnerships for the exact companies, but we're looking for startups and large companies here in the DC area that have a presence that is beyond just their government relations offices. So we're talking to some big companies like, there's a Capital One has a big presence out in Tyson's Corner. Hilton and Marriott are also based in the DC area. Under Armour is based in Baltimore. But there's also a number of smaller startups in the area that have a strong presence as well. So we're putting together those partnerships now, and folks will have an opportunity to learn more about those companies early next year as part of the fellowship. I'm going to answer this next one as well, which is sort of related question. How are the private sector and public sector internships determined? So it will be a mutual placement process. So we will work on the partnerships both with the private sector companies and with the Capitol Hill offices for the fellowships in the fall. And each fellow will have an opportunity to learn more about what the opportunities are and express some preferences before being placed. Got a specific question from Adrian from here about what about campaign finance directors in terms of profile? Campaign finance director is fine. I think the key thing that we want to see is at least some people management experience. Have you managed a team of some sort along the way? That's really the critical piece. But we've had folks come through with communications experience. We've had folks come through with call time and finance experience. So campaign finance director, sure, would love to see an application from someone with that kind of a background. Next question is, what is the size of the cohort? So the cohort, we are recruiting for a cohort of 25 people. So we will have 25 folks who go through this with us on this first round. My next question is from Coffee, who asks, what is the acceptance rate? I don't know the answer to this question because I don't know how many people are going to apply. I can tell you we've had over 200 applications already for 25 slots. And so it is a selective program. But I really would encourage anyone who thinks that they can put forward a strong application. I would encourage them to do so. Answer live. So next question is, how many interviewees for the panel interview? You are there by yourself. So there will be, the panel interviews is 3 or 4 members of our selection community, our selection committee, and a single candidate. So you are being interviewed by yourself. You are not being interviewed with other candidates for the fellowships. Next question, and we have gotten this one a lot, so it's an important one. Are there housing assistants / leads for DC? So the program comes with a stipend that is intended to cover all of your expenses, including housing, like any salary job. We have heard this request a lot in terms of connecting folks, giving them some advice on where to live and what might be good housing situations in DC. So as with the cohort comes together in December, we will do our best to offer some both mutual connections if folks want to try to see if someone else in the cohort would make a good roommate, or also just connecting them with general housing resources here in the DC area. Next question is having a strong technical background useful for this role? I would say yes, but again, we're really looking for that campaign and political experience with some management. If that comes from the IT or digital security side, that's totally fine. But that really, the campaign / public service experience with some people management in there somewhere. Next person asked, what are the disadvantages of applying on the November deadline as opposed to the October deadline? There is no, we're not giving extra consideration to people who apply early, only that the later on that we expect more applications, and so it may get more selective as we have more applications toward the end. But we are looking for 25 awesome folks, and we are going through panel interviews right now, and we are not saying yes to folks unless we're really excited and we think they're a great fit for the program. So there's no particular disadvantage on November versus October, except that I would say the sooner you apply, the sooner we can consider you and give you an answer and and help you think about your own future as you think about your own next steps. All right. What about people who have managed field operations and on successful winning congressional campaigns? Again, yeah, I think we're pretty flexible on what that management experience looks like. So I would say a district level field organizer might not be the level we're looking for, but if you've managed a field operation, especially if you've had a team over time, yeah, that works. And I think the more that you feel like your profile isn't exactly in the target demographic that I would described, the more I would encourage you to use the opportunity of the written questions to tell your story and why you think that LOFT is a fit for you. Next question is, at the end of the program, will there be a specific credential provided from Georgetown University? So we will get, participants will get an electronic certificate from Michigan and from Georgetown. I cannot speak to whether that credential will be accepted by any other program as a prerequisite or as course credit for another degree granting program. The courses are really intended to be focused on you and your skills development rather than being a stackable credential for the future, other than we expect that LOFT fellows will be in high demand throughout their experience. But so you will get an electronic credential, but I can't speak to whether it would be accepted as course credit for any other program. I'm going to see. I have a couple other questions that were submitted to me online that I want to make sure that I cover. Oh, some have asked in the past about the housing situation in Michigan. It's important to note for the Michigan portion, the program will cover all of your travel costs. We'll be staying in a hotel in Michigan, but flights, hotel, ground transportation, all covered as part of that part of the program. The next question is, what are the advantages of placing fellows in organizations that are not solely government affairs shops? LOFT is focused on helping fellows learn leadership and management techniques from the private sector that are research-backed and tried and tested over time. We think that part of helping fellows see that is by seeing a business in action, seeing them work through a marketing campaign, seeing them work through a strategy review, seeing them work through a people review. That's what we think the advantage is here. We want folks to see, how does what I'm learning in the classroom work in a company? And so that's really the focus of the private sector externships over the course of the summer. We've also gotten questions, will there be assistance with job placement after the end of the fellowship? We intend for there to be a robust set of alumni engagements for this program. And we want folks to stay in touch with us. We want to help them find their next opportunity and ultimately move on to bigger and better things throughout their career. So yes, we will help with placement and we will help with alumni networking over time. Question got asked, is there a commitment to diversity in terms of economic, gender, job background in this cohort? Yes. We want a diverse cohort. We don't want everybody to have come from exactly the same place. So we are trying to recruit from ethnic and gender diversity to different types of public service and campaign backgrounds. I don't know what the cohort is going to look like. That's going to depend on the application set that we get. But 100% we are committed to recruiting a diverse cohort. Someone asked, what is an example of the job position titles that you'd like to see fellows who graduate step into? So I think, great question. I think that someone who might come into this having only managed a congressional race goes back and is able to manage a statewide race, or goes into a national campaign committee and has a leadership position there. Someone on the Hill might come from an individual office and go back and be a staff director on the committee, or ultimately a leadership aide. Those are the kinds of progressions that we want to see. We think that, and with the gap that we've identified is throughout the broader public service and campaign ecosystem, folks who come into leadership positions with great intentions, but without the skills to lead and manage effectively. That's what we want to give them. That's what we want to see throughout these organizations, and that's what we want to help people find as they head on into the future of their career. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions that we haven't covered here. I think we've covered just about everything. But I would say again, we got one more question, and I will take this one. So, what role will networking and relationship building play in the fellowship? Network building is really, really key. And we see it as a key part of of what fellows take away from this process. So we will have both structured networking events with our guest speakers, with consultants and other senior campaign practitioners, folks from the Hill, folks from executive agencies, folks who are here in DC. We will do a lot of structured networking. In addition, we'll have some sessions that are focused on helping folks think about how to prioritize relationship building and how to maintain a professional network in a way that goes beyond just calling someone when you need a job. And so that's really how we think about networking, and we're looking forward to incorporating that throughout the 12 months of the program. So thank you all for joining us today. It was great to have you here on this webinar. As I said before, loftleaders.org/apply If you have any questions, there's a form on our website that goes directly to my email. You can, if you send it to me, I'm the one answering those questions, or you can shoot a note to info@loftleaders.org. Happy to answer any questions. Happy to answer any questions along the way. And we got one more question that came here. Could you clarify the location for the days classes aren't being held on site? So most of the in DC, I'm assuming is what this question is talking about. So in DC, on the days we're at Georgetown, we'll be mostly at the School of Continuing Studies building, which is on 6th and Massachusetts Avenue. There are a couple of days throughout the term where we go over to main campus, but in general, we're not there. For the application sessions where we're not in session with the professors at Georgetown, we have a loft office, which is near the Judiciary Square Metro stop, also on Mass Ave, around that same area. So that's where the locations are concentrated for the days when classes are being held. I'm going to answer this next question. I'm going to keep answering questions until 1:30 if you want to keep dropping them in the Q&A. So I really want to make sure that everybody gets out of this any questions they have. And yeah, just type your questions. We're not going to be able to do live questions today, but if you can just type your questions into the Q&A function at the bottom. Someone asked, how does independent expenditure PAC experience in an applicant compare to campaign or elected staff experience? IE or PAC experience is great. That is 100% political or campaign experience, the way that we would think about it. Again, I think that our, sort of the bar that we want to see to be considered for LOFT is at least some management experience. So have you managed people in some way, shape, or form along the way? But yeah, IE or PACs is 100% in the realm of what we're talking about here. Well, again, thank you, folks, for your time today. We keep having questions drop in, so I keep trying to end, and then folks keep dropping in with questions, so I'm going to keep answering them. How will fellows be graded or maintain their fellowship? So you will get a ton of feedback along the way, but this is not like a college grade. We're not going to grade you A, B, C, D, E. You are going to receive a ton of feedback about your leadership style, how you engage in the classroom, how you've engaged with your fellows, how you've engaged in your previous jobs. You will get a ton of feedback. You won't be graded the way you would think about it for a typical academic class. Are you looking for people who want to work after in the field? What if someone was looking to found a company after? Our goal is that folks stay broadly within the progressive campaign and public service ecosystem. That's our goal. We want to keep people in that ecosystem, and we want them to thrive in that ecosystem, and we want them to bring these management and leadership techniques into that ecosystem. Founding a company that services campaigns or services public service leaders in some way, shape, or form would, to us, sort of broadly fit within that. But in general, we want folks to stay within that ecosystem. All right. Who are some example external stakeholders who fellows will interact with? What are some examples with their positions? So I think that, I'm not able to share any of our confirmed speakers' names right now. But, we will be looking at, founders of polling firms. We will be looking at founders of big consulting firms in the broader DC space that you've heard of. We will be looking at folks who have had campaign manager on a presidential level. We will be looking at folks who have run campaigns at a local, state level, statewide, and national level. That is the kind of folks that we will be bringing elected officials from the Hill. We certainly hope that we have a few senators and folks who can join us. So that's the kind of example that we would think about. But we look forward to rolling that out when we have more information available there as well. Next one, if this program had been around in years past, what difference would it have made in the careers and lives of political professionals? What distinctive difference are you trying to make with this inaugural cohort? I think anyone who works in campaigns or in a Hill office or in public service anywhere has had the experience of leaders who are incredibly well-intentioned, but are thrown into the deep end without the proper training and skills on how to be leaders and managers of an organization. That's what the difference we're trying to make. We are trying to give great leaders the tools that they need in order to be most effective in leading their teams for impact. That's the difference we're trying to make. This cohort is 25 people. In the future, we hope to scale up this program and offer shorter and smaller and different other versions of the program. But that's really what we're focused on, is bringing those tried and tested, research-backed management and leadership skills from the private sector into campaigns and public service. Next question, where does the program funding come from? So LOFT was incubated by a group of funders led by Alan Blue, who were interested in talent development in the campaign and public service ecosystem. They wanted to see something like this. And so that's it is a group of funders who are very interested in making sure that this talent development can be developed and live on. And I'm going to answer this one more question, and then we're going to go. Is there anyone who you consider overqualified for the position? If you're mid-career, have more than 8 years experience, would you recommend not applying? I would say this. Yes, there is a point at which you are overqualified for this. And thinking about that ideal profile that I talked about where you are in your career arc, right? Someone who's just had their first management level position, might not know what's next, might not know what other options are available to them. That's the kind of target we're headed for. If you're more senior in your career, but you spent the first 10 years as a teacher, or you spent 4 or 8 years in the military, and then you went into campaigns and public service, absolutely. We think that you could be a fit potentially for the program. But if you've managed half a dozen races, if you've managed a statewide campaign more than once, you're probably beyond the experience level that we're looking to target right here. All right, with that, I am going to wrap it up. We've gone a couple of minutes over. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Thank you so much for your interest in the program. Again, loftleaders.org/apply. Or go to you can ask us questions on the website or shoot an email, info@loftleaders.org. Happy to answer any questions by email as well. Thanks so much. Have a great day, everybody.